All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're doing a deep dive into some source material that, well, it promises to look at frugal living tips. So extreme, the source basically puts up a big flashing warning sign.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about ideas that go, way beyond just packing your lunch or maybe clipping coupons.
Definitely. This material lays out, what, 10 specific approaches?
10,
Yeah.
yes. And the framing is key here. These aren't presented as just small tweaks. They're positioned as significant lifestyle shifts, maybe even wild, as the source kind of implies, suggests a real commitment.
Or boldness, yeah. My first thought reading it was, okay, what makes these extreme, according to this source? What are they actually describing? And importantly, what's the supposed payoff?
Right. So our mission today is really to unpack these 10 tips, understand the core idea behind each one just based on what this material presents.
And see what they might tell us about saving money on a, frankly, radical level.
It's a really interesting way to look at the maybe far end of the frugality spectrum, isn't it? By examining these more, let's say, unconventional methods. We can get a better handle on the basic principles of drastically cutting expenses, even if the methods themselves seem, well, pretty daunting.
So think of this deep dive as your shortcut. You get to understand these specific approaches from the source without needing to wade through it all yourself.
Exactly. Peering over the edge of the frugal cliff, maybe, guided by what the source describes.
So are you ready? Ready to explore some concepts that might seriously challenge your idea of normal? But hey, according to this source, they could lead to some substantial financial gains. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the source kicks off its list with something that, well, it sounds familiar on the surface, but it's framed here as a real commitment. Ditch the dryer line, try everything.
Right. The source presents this as like a fundamental step. The goal, to cut your energy bill drastically. Pretty straightforward.
And the logic is simple, as you said. Line drying clothes,
What does it say?
it saves power, extends fabric life, and costs nothing, except a bit of patience.
Yeah, patience. And maybe checking the weather forecast.
True. It's presented as extreme, I think, because it means totally opting out of a standard, modern convenience.
Mm.
The source really hammers the link between using that appliance daily and higher costs.
Highlighting the power savings, yeah.
Right.
And that extended life for your clothes, that's the payoff mentioned.
It basically forces you to consciously trade time and effort for a direct cut in your utility bill. Challenges that convenience factor we're all so used to.
Mm-hmm. A deliberate choice.
Okay, so if ditching one major appliance sounds intense, the next tip from the source, it goes even further. Live without a fridge.
Oh, yeah. The way the source talks about this one, it's clear they see it as a significant leap.
Definitely frames it as radical. Just flat out says, yes, people do this.
And then it suggests alternatives, right? Things like root cellars, fermentation, and daily shopping at local markets instead of refrigeration.
Wow, root cellars and fermentation.
Yeah,
That really does sound like going back in time, doesn't it?
it does. And the source is upfront about it, calling it not for the faint of heart.
But then, interestingly, it adds that it's totally doable in the right climate, which is a practical point.
Right. So the implied benefit is getting rid of that constant, significant energy drain from the refrigerator. It would completely change how you handle food.
Yeah, your whole relationship with perishability. It means a totally different way of thinking about groceries, focusing on preservation,
Yeah,
buying just what you need for the day.
exactly. The extremity comes from skipping what most of us consider an absolute essential for food safety and, well, convenience.
Keeping with that theme of radical energy reduction, the source also includes cancel hot water.
Meaning, embracing cold showers every day.
Yep. The source gives two main reasons. First, the obvious energy savings, you're not heating water.
And second, it also mentions some maybe less conventional benefits, like improved circulation and mental resilience.
Plus, the source cheekily adds, you'll be in and out fast. Which, okay, maybe true.
Probably. But this tip really challenges a basic comfort that's pretty universal, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The savings highlighted are purely from cutting that energy used for heating water for showers or baths. Zero expenditure there.
It's a very direct, daily, physical commitment. You do it, you immediately see a reduction in energy use and cost. Simple as that.
Okay, shifting focus a bit now. Moving from individual appliances to, like, total utility independence. The next tip is a big one. Go off-grid.
Yeah, this is described by the source as a complete break from public utilities.
And the examples listed are things like using solar power, rainwater collection, composting toilets, the whole package.
The source labels it explicitly. A lifestyle overhaul. No understatement there.
But it presents the upside as pretty significant. The long-term savings are real, and so is the freedom.
That freedom aspect seems key.
It does. This is undeniably extreme, right? It requires a substantial initial investment, probably, and a deep commitment to managing your own resources day to day.
But the stated payoff is both financial, those long-term savings, and also that sense of autonomy, personal control.
It really represents, according to the source's description, a peak level of self-sufficiency for energy and water.
Definitely aiming for self-reliance there.
All right, maybe buckle up for number 5. The source lists something that might raise a few eyebrows. Dumpster diving.
Yeah, the source acknowledges this one might sound wild, doesn't shy away from that.
But then it goes on to claim that many people score perfectly good food and goods from commercial dumpsters.
And the reasoning given is that stores often toss items due to minor flaws or approaching sell-by dates, things that are still usable.
Now, importantly, the source does include a necessary caution here. Just know your local laws and hygiene rules, which is critical.
Absolutely essential. The extremity lies in, well, how unconventional it is, the potential health risks if you're not careful, and maybe the social stigma too.
Yet the source presents a pretty significant payoff, getting perfectly usable stuff for free, directly cutting costs on groceries, maybe other goods too.
It's framed as basically leveraging waste streams, finding an alternative supply chain that completely bypasses retail costs.
So the source highlights the financial win, while at least nodding to the practical and legal stuff you need to watch out for.
Right, you need to be smart about it, according to them.
Okay, moving to a different kind of radical choice. This one's about housing. Live in a vehicle.
The source mentions this can cover a range, from vans to RVs, people choosing mobile living to eliminate rent and utilities.
According to the source, if you can downsize and live light, this could save you tens of thousands a year. That's a huge claim.
Tens of thousands, yeah. The extremity is obviously giving up a fixed traditional home.
But the financial benefit they point to is massive, potentially getting rid of rent or mortgage payments, and maybe some utilities too. Often the biggest chunk of anyone's budget.
Exactly. It represents a really radical way to slash housing costs by adopting a minimalist, mobile lifestyle, as the source describes it.
Okay, shifting gears again. This time it's about how we transact. The source includes barter everything.
Right. The source describes this as trying to use zero money by bartering for goods and services.
And it specifically encourages using your own skills. Got a skill, trade it. Simple as that.
And the source adds this little note of optimism. You'll be amazed what you can get just by offering your time or talents.
So this is framed as extreme because the goal is to basically bypass the normal money system for a lot of things, relying instead on direct exchange, your labor, your skills, maybe goods you have.
The payoff is straightforward. You just don't spend cash for those things.
It's like a re-emphasis on direct value, isn't it? Valuing skills and time directly outside of a price tag. That's how the source presents it anyway.
Exactly. A different way of thinking about exchange.
All right, number 8 on this list. It sounds really intense. Extreme grocery budgeting aiming for $1 a day.
Whoa. Yeah, the source frames this as a strict challenge. Spend just $1 a day on food.
Just $1. How? It suggests focusing on really low-cost, high-volume staples. Things like bulk grains, legumes, oats, and frozen veggies.
Basically, the cheapest calories and nutrients you can find.
And the source insists it's possible, and it really reveals how much excess we normally consume.
That's an interesting angle. Not just saving money, but learning about your habits.
Right. The extremity is obvious that budget is incredibly tight for something as basic as food. But the stated payoff, beyond just the huge savings,
is that forced awareness? Becoming conscious of typical eating habits and where money usually goes, perhaps unnecessarily.
It would require a very deep dive into nutrition versus cost, wouldn't it? Highlighting where standard budgets might have bloat by imposing such a harsh limit.
Absolutely. Meticulous planning required, I'd imagine.
Okay, we're getting close to the end of this list of extremes. Number 9, no-buy year.
Ah, the no-buy year. The source defines this pretty clearly. A commitment where, outside of food and true essentials, you don't buy anything for a whole year.
Nothing non-essential for 12 months. The source calls this a radical reset for your wallet and your mindset.
Radical reset sounds about right. The extremity is definitely in that long-term commitment, halting basically all discretionary spending.
And the stated payoff. It's twofold, according to the source. 1, a major financial recalibration, obviously.
And 2, a fundamental shift in how you distinguish between what you genuinely need versus what you just want.
It's presented as this comprehensive pause button on non-essential buying, really designed to help you identify and maybe break those ingrained consumption
A
habits.
full year commitment.
Yeah,
That's definitely a challenge.
for sure. Okay, finally, number 10. This one focuses on self-reliance, DIY everything.
This tip is all about mastering self-reliance, as the source puts it.
And it gives a whole range of examples, doesn't it? From fixing appliances to making your own toothpaste, soap, or clothes. Pretty broad scope.
Yeah, and it even points you towards resources. YouTube tutorials are your new best friend. Very practical advice there.
Huh, true. The extremity here seems to be in opting out of paying for so many standard services and manufactured goods whenever you possibly can.
Instead, investing your own time and effort to make things or fix things yourself.
And the payoff is simply saving the money you would have spent hiring someone or buying those pre-made products, toiletries, clothes, whatever it might be.
It really emphasizes acquiring practical skills, doesn't it? As a direct way to reduce how much you rely financially on external providers and store-bought items.
Yeah.
That's the core idea from the source.
So there we have it. That's the list from the source. Ditching the dryer, no fridge, only cold showers, going off-grid, dumpster diving.
Living in a vehicle, bartering everything, that super tight $1 a day food budget, the no-buy year, and DIY everything. Quite a list.
Definitely. Looking across all 10 points from the source material, you start to see some overarching themes, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. There's a really strong thread about radically cutting reliance on standard utilities, right?
Mhm.
The dryer, the fridge, hot water, even going fully off-grid.
That's clear.
Ah,
And another big theme seems to be fundamentally questioning our usual consumption habits, what we think of as necessities.
exactly. Like the no fridge idea, the $1 food budget, the no buy year. Even the dumpster diving angle fits there. It challenges assumptions.
And there's also a definite lean towards relying on your own skills or like direct community exchange instead of just paying for stuff.
Mm-hmm. The bartering, the DIY, everything, maybe even the vehicle living to some extent. Aspects of the no fridge and dumpster diving also touch on finding resources outside the usual system.
So the source isn't just listing, little ways to save a few bucks here and there. It's describing potential lifestyles that inherently bypass many of the systems and conveniences that cost money in modern life.
Precisely. And the material suggests that even if you don't fully adopt any of these extreme measures, just exploring one or two could potentially save you serious cash and shift your mindset around money and consumption. That mindset piece comes up again.
Yeah, that idea of a mindset shift feels really central to what the source is getting at with this list, doesn't it?
I think so. It's not just about this specific tactic, like line drying clothes. It's about how these extreme examples challenge your basic assumptions about needs, about convenience, about value itself.
It kind of pushes back against the easy defaults, the norms we often just accept without thinking, forces you to reevaluate what's truly necessary versus what's just habit or maybe social pressure.
A reevaluation, yeah. That seems like a good way to put it.
So we've done our deep dive into these 10 tips, the ones presented as extreme in this source material. They are clearly way outside the norm for financial advice.
And the source itself acknowledges, hey, these aren't for everyone.
Right. But they certainly lay bare some powerful, if pretty radical, ways to save money
Yeah.
and fundamentally rethink how we consume.
They really provide a stark contrast to our usual spending patterns, don't they? They prompt you to consider, well, what parts of my spending are truly non-negotiable? And what parts are maybe just driven by habit or culture or convenience?
So thinking about the tips we've just walked through, based purely on how the source described them, which ones feel the most challenging, maybe even unthinkable for you personally listening right now?
Or are there any that, despite sounding extreme, actually spark a bit of curiosity? A little flicker of, coulda.
And thinking about the potential benefits the source mentions. Saving thousands, gaining freedom, building resilience, that big mindset shift. Which of those possibilities resonates most strongly with you?
Yeah, maybe consider the principle underneath each tip. That idea of reducing external reliance, increasing your own agency, or maybe community interdependence as a way to lower costs.
And here's a final thought to chew on, building on what this source implies. If extreme frugality is largely about questioning these deep-seated consumption patterns, about actively seeking alternatives outside the usual system.
Then what does that suggest about the hidden costs of our everyday normal spending habits?
Exactly. What might we be paying for beyond just the price on the tag when we automatically choose the path of least resistance, the convenient option, in our consumption? Food for thought.